Hello everyone, my name is Erin Reed, and in this video I'm going to be talking about GeoGebra, which is a web-based technology. GeoGebra is a free online dynamic software that has math applications for topics such as algebra, geometry, statistics, and even 3D mathematics. Some of the applications that GeoGebra offers are a scientific calculator, a graphing calculator, a 3D calculator, GeoGebra Geometry, and GeoGebra Classic. For the purpose of this video, I will be showing you the GeoGebra Classic application. And during this video, I will demonstrate some of the functionalities and features and affordances of GeoGebra Classic. Later on in the video, I will identify some of the different ways GeoGebra Classic can be used as a tool in the classroom. Okay, let's get started. This is what you will see when you first enter GeoGebra Classic. On the right, you can see the various perspectives you can set, such as graphing, which is the perspective you see on the screen right now. Other perspectives include geometry, 3D graphics, CAS or computer algebra system, spreadsheet, and probability. If I click on geometry, it brings up a blank page, which is great for constructing figures. Let's say I want to change my perspective. I go up to the top here, select perspectives. Now I can choose what perspective I like. Let's say I want to do CAS. Here it brings up the computer algebra system. Let's do 3D graphics. It brings up a 3D plane in which I can graph in. Spreadsheet. And finally, probability. Now I want to go back to the graphing feature. Now that I'm back in the graphing perspective, I notice that the grid lines I had before are missing. You can actually select whether you want no grid lines. You can select a coordinate plane, polar, or even isometric. I'm just going to stick with a coordinate plane for now. And you can even select whether you want your axes to show or not. At the top left of the screen is the toolbar, which includes a multitude of tools to play with and use. The toolbar allows you to construct points, which are already labeled for you, which is very helpful. The points appear here in the input bar. I can even construct such things as lines, segments, rays. I'm going to construct a line between A and B. First I select A, and then I select B, and now I have line AB. If I wanted to construct a perpendicular line, you can actually see down at the bottom we have instructions, sort of a little help feature, and it says select a point and perpendicular line. So I'm going to select point A, and then this line AB, and now I have a line perpendicular to AB. If I want to check and make sure it's perpendicular, I can actually measure the angle. I probably will need an extra point on this line, and so now I'll measure the angle BAD, and it is in fact 90 degrees. So we have a perpendicular line. So now that I have my perpendicular line drawn, I think I want to change the color of it. To do this, I'm going to right click on my perpendicular line. This menu will appear, which has multiple different options. I can choose to show the object, show the label. I think I'm going to show the label, which is G. And then also I can rename it. Let's do that real quick. We'll name it F. And then finally, I'll right click one more time, and I'm going to select the settings menu. Here's also where you could change the name of your line if you wish. And I'm going to change the color by selecting the color tab, and you can change it to just about whatever color you like. There's so many color options, but I'm going to choose red. When I'm done, I simply click the X and the setting menu goes away. Now I want to clean up my screen a little bit, so I'm going to go to the Move Graphics, which you can also zoom in, zoom out here, hide and show objects or labels, but I'm going to select the Delete tool, and now any item that I select will actually delete. See, now I have a completely blank input bar, and so we can start fresh. Speaking of the input bar, if you don't want to draw out your own lines, you can actually input equations here. Let's say I want to graph y equals x plus 2. I can simply put in the equation into the input bar, and it will graph it on the screen. The slider tool is great if you want students to interact with different parts of the graph. Let me delete this line real quick, but let's say I want students to work with y equals mx plus b, and I want them to see how the slope m and the y-intercept b affect the graph. Well, I'm going to create a slider. I will name it m, and I will have an interval of -10 to 10 with an increment of 1. And now I'm going to create slider b, same dimensions, -10 to 10 with an increment of 0.1. Now that I have my sliders, I can simply put y equals mx plus b, and now I can move my sliders and it changes the graph. Now the equation I have over here on the input bar, I want that to appear on my screen. So I'm going to select text, and I'm going to actually go to advanced, select the GeoGebra icon, and I'm going to select F, because in the input box, that is what is shown for the equation. So I'm going to select F, select OK, and now I have my equation in text, and it actually changes as I change the graph. Now let me show you some of the other tools. I'm going to delete what I've created here. Let me show you the polygon tool. So for this tool, to create a polygon, you just create points, which will be the vertices of your polygon. And to complete the polygon, you always want to stop at the same vertice that you created first. Now I have polygon ABC, which has been created on my screen. Let's say I wanted to do a regular polygon, which means all sides are equal. Let's say I want to do an equilateral triangle. We create the first 2 points, and then it asks you how many vertices you would like. I'm going to select 3 for a triangle, and now I have an equilateral triangle. I can click and drag this triangle as much as I want, but it should say equilateral. I can check this by actually measuring the distance or length. Some other tools that might be helpful with polygons would be area. I can find the area of the polygon, or maybe the interior or exterior angles. But I'm going to choose distance or length. I'm going to select each side, click each side, and we can see no matter how much I move this around, it stays an equilateral triangle. Now let's say we might want to do a transformation. We could do a transformation of a figure or maybe a point. We could reflect it about a line, a point, circle, even do rotations, translations, or dilations. We will actually be using the rotate around a point feature later on in this video. Lastly, I'm going to show you the circle tool, but before I do that, I'm going to quickly delete the polygons I just created. And so now with the circle tool, you can create a circle with center through point, circle and radius, even a semicircle or an arc. I'm going to create a circle with center through point. So I clicked and created my center, which is A. I'm going to pull my mouse cursor out, click again, and now I have point B. So this is circle AB. And now I want to do a circle with center and radius. I'm going to click my center C. I'm going to give it a radius of 2. Click OK, and now I have a circle with a radius of 2. And no matter where I pull this circle or move it, it stays with a radius of 2. Now if I go back to my circle with center through point, I can move this point B, and it actually changes the radius of my circle. I can also move A, and this changes my circle. So the circle with center through point is actually dynamic. Lastly, we have this tool, which we can use to create an ellipse, hyperbola, parabola, or a conic. I'm going to create an ellipse real quick. All I have to do is select 2 foci, and then a point on the ellipse. That looks good. And so now I have ellipse DEF. Again, if I wanted to see any of the equations of these circles or ellipses, I can see it over here in the input bar. I can also see all the coordinates of the points. So now I've cleared my screen, and this is because I want to talk about GeoGebra and how it can be used as a tool in the classroom. GeoGebra can be used as a speed and accuracy tool because it allows both teachers and students to create diagrams or geometric shapes. GeoGebra can also be used as a cognitive/concept development tool since it can support students' exploration of and engagement with mathematics. Lastly, GeoGebra can be used as a reasoning and communication tool because you can create activities that promote critical thinking and reasoning among students. With that being said, I'm going to show you how to create an activity in GeoGebra. I'm going to zoom in a little bit before I start, but I want to create an activity that will help students explore what happens to a figure when it is rotated about the origin. To start out, I'm going to put a point on the origin, and I'm going to actually rename that point to O for origin. And next, I think I'm going to create a square for my figure I want to rotate. So I'm going to do a regular polygon. That'll be the easiest way to create a square. I want 4 vertices. And now we have polygon A, B, C, D. I'm going to quickly hide this label. I don't want to see that. I'm going to create a slider. And this slider is what we're actually going to use as the angle of our rotation. I'm going to change the name to X. Let's set it to 0 degrees. We'll have the minimum at 0, max at 360, and I'm going to do an increment of 90 degrees. And so now we can move our slider. We see that it goes up and down by 90 degrees. Next, I'm going to start rotating the points of the polygon so I can create an image of the polygon. I'm going to move this slider over to 90 so that way when I rotate the first point, I can actually see it appear as a rotation instead of just on top of this image. So I'm going to select rotate around a point. I'm going to select B as the point I want to rotate. I want to rotate about the origin. And now for the angle part, I'm going to put in X, which is going to be whatever angle value our slider has, which is why we named the slider X earlier. Click OK, and now we have our point B. I'm going to do the same for point A. So now we have our image of A. I'm going to do it for point D, and then for point C. So now I have all of my points, and I'm just going to create the polygon between them so it's shaded as well. And I'm going to remove these labels that popped up on the side links of the square I created. I don't really want those, so I'm going to hide those. And now, to help my students see like the original image and the rotated image, I think I want to change the colors of these. So I'm actually going to hold down Control on my keyboard and select all the elements I want to change the color of, and I'm going to let this one be blue. And then I'll do the same for the rotated polygon. I'm going to let this one be red. So now hopefully it's a bit easier for students to see the different images and even when the images overlap. So lastly, I actually want to show these points here, these coordinate points, somewhere on this screen, because when students enter the activity, I'm not going to have them see the input bar, but I still want them to see the points. So I'm going to select the text tool. I'm going to work with point A first. So I'll type in A, go to the advanced options, use the little GeoGebra icon, and since our A here is blue, we need to click on the blue A. And now we have our point A on our screen. I'm going to do the same for point B. Go to Advanced in the GeoGebra icon and select B. I'm going to use the same process to create the rest of my coordinate points, and I will be back when I'm done. Okay, so now I've finished all the points, And what I want to do is I want to color code these points with their corresponding polygon. So for example, points A, B, C, D go with the blue polygon. So I'm going to make the text blue, and I'm going to actually make that bold so it's a little bit easier to see. Now I'm going to select all the primes, make that red and bold so it's a little bit easier to see. So now we have our polygons, we have our points, and our points do change when we rotate the polygon. So I think my activity is done. So what I want to do is go to File, save my activity. I'm going to title it Rotations Exploration. You have the option to share it or keep it private. I'll share it. Now that I've saved the activity, I can actually go to my GeoGebra account page. Here you can see where you can create other activities, but underneath Resources is where you'll find activities you have saved. As you can see, here's our Rotations Exploration that I just created, and I have other activities that I've created previously. But what I want to do is edit the activity. With editing the activity, it allows you to add elements such as text, GeoGebra, web, question, video, images, or a PDF file. So like if you want to attach a worksheet to this activity, you can do that with a PDF file. I'm just going to add a question. I'll have question 1 be pretty simple, such as name. So student will have to put in their name, add another element, let's do another question. So for question 2, I'm going to say, what happens to the points of A, B, C, D when rotated 90 degrees about the origin. And so now students can enter their answer. If I wanted them to do multiple choice, they can do that as well. And I'm going to select done. I can always go back and add more questions at a later time, but I think for right now, I'm just going to save and close. And so it takes me back to my resources screen. I'm going to click on that activity because I want to see what students are going to see when they enter into that activity. So again, that input bar is no longer here. Question 1, they can type their answer here for their name, and question 2. And so that is my completed GeoGebra activity.